Welcome to this week's episode of Listen to Your Coaches. I'm your coach, Mike Wilkins, here with Coach Will Morrill. This week, we're going to do a breakdown of the events that happened this past weekend. We had two stout fighters fighting in two different states, but luckily they were close by. So let's jump right into it. Let's start with Luke Martin. He fought in LFA. Should have committed probably that number to my brain, like LFA, like
I want to say
87 or
189.
Hey, LFA 189.
Or maybe 197?
Listen, we don't know.
And actually, I'm definitely the one who shouldn't be remembering numbers out of the two of us.
Yeah,
so.
while I was talking, I was like, oh, I should have probably looked at the number.
Yeah, there's zero chance I had.
But whatever, LFA's suffices.
LFA on Friday, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, so it was on the Seneca Reservation. We were there in February for Farmon's LFA fight, right?
The Niagara.
So they have two casinos that they have casino, hotel, event center, resort type things. The one at Niagara Falls. This one was in Salamanca, New York, right next to the Allegheny
Forest or
National Park or whatever forest. Yeah, I would say between the two venues, this one was better.
I agree.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little nicer. You didn't have to walk like a mile to get to the staging area.
Had a bit of a walk, but like didn't have to take an elevator.
Yeah, and it was still half the walk of the last one, but
I mean, yeah, definitely still have to walk the last one.
But those are minor details. Let's dive into the actual
Let's
fight event, set the scene maybe.
Set the scene.
All right.
So let's do a little locker room talk. You got any locker room talk?
Oh, I think we could start before that.
Okay.
Do we want to talk about weight cutting at all? Some things we've learned, or do we want to skip that?
We want to skip that.
Okay. That'll just stay between us.
All right.
So we drove up there. It was sick. We show up, nice venue. Luke's all ready to go.
We came up fight day. Luke was up there Wednesday night. Weigh-ins were Thursday morning because he, Luke amateur at present moment. But got the weigh-in with the pros. And LFA, they do it like similar schedule to like the UFC where the fights are on, let's say, for example, Friday night. So the weigh-ins are not only just 24 hours before, they're like 30-some hours before because they weigh in the morning before, right? So he weighed in about noon.
Yeah.
He said that the power went out at weigh-ins.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah, pushed it back. But made weight. That was all smooth sailing. So you and I, we went up fight day. We got there about an hour before report time. Report time was 5. We got there a little before 4.
Something else I think that's important is to note, LFA doesn't, I don't think they usually have amateur fights, correct?
Yeah, not usually.
I think they only make exceptions for like exceptional people.
Yes.
And Luke Martin being an NCAA champ, exceptional person. And there were only 2 amateur fights on this card.
Correct.
The other one being exceptional because of the gym he comes from. But we'll get to that.
I mean, he might be very good as well. I mean, he's now 4-0. His name is... I didn't commit his name to memory. So I don't know who he is. But he was in our locker room. And he came from... What's their gym? Does their gym have a name?
I don't know.
All right, well, Glover Teixeira's gym.
Yeah.
In which Alex...
Yeah, Alex and Glover and the pad holder you always see Alex with was there as well.
Yeah.
Which, like, maybe we should start with this.
This kid's
dude,
fighting an amateur fight in the LFA, wearing Alex Perez
fight kit.
Championship fight kit.
Yeah.
In his corner for the fight, 3 UFC champs. Alex being an 85 and 205 UFC.
Gotcha, yeah.
Yeah, and then Glover. So he's got 3 UFC titles in his corner between 2 people.
Yeah.
And he's an amateur.
And can I just say, man, those guys... So we shared a locker room with them when Brittany fought in March.
In March.
And I was like, wow, these dudes are really cool. I mean, I've obviously always thought they were cool and liked them and whatever, like as fighters. But then seeing how they operate and seeing that they showed up for a lower level guy.
During for Brittany's fight in March 2, it was an amateur.
Right.
Yeah, and these dudes are showing up traveling distances to coach their amateurs. So I was just like, man, that's so cool.
And then seeing how they conduct themselves, I was just like, I really love these dudes. Like, they are awesome. And then this time, same exact thing. They were super cool. Before Luke fought, Glover was saying, like, oh, you look sharp, whatever. Like, giving him compliments. Alex being in the room is just like...
It brings a feeling to the room, too.
Like it totally does.
Yeah,
exactly.
Which is weird. I feel like Glover being in there, he was the
OG.
Yeah, is he the oldest champ?
Yeah.
Yeah, the oldest champ.
And also,
That should bring some.
It's not like you and I haven't been in locker rooms with like, you know, big time fighters in the past. You know what I mean? Like, I remember at some CFFC, Hoist Gracie popping back there. You know, seeing Henzo in the back.
Yeah.
Seeing like all kinds of the guys from the Northeast. You know, just in locker rooms all the time. And you're like, oh, that's cool, but like, it doesn't give that same like. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. There's just like a. It's like the lights dim a little bit, or maybe get brighter or something when Alex walks in. But you're like, oh man, that dude's like. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, real cool. And we got to see like them react like in March, their fighter lost, right? And it's like, oh, how do they handle that or whatever? And it was just like same as if he would have won.
Yeah.
They were like, all right, cool, man.
Yeah, dude.
Like good fight, like
humble in defeat and victory.
Yeah,
just like so impressed with them, and just like as like a team.
And I like our streak.
Yeah.
Streak 2-0. Sharing a locker room with them, so I would accept that at all times.
But back to our fighter. So,
Luke, great warm up.
Yep, perfectly timed. Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about with him being one of the only amateurs. He was first on the card, which,
in my recollection, I don't know if I've ever cornered an opening bout. I've never been in one, and I don't think I've ever cornered an opening.
So
you know what I have, and you want to know what's crazy about it?
What?
That opening bout was against Glover's team.
Oh
Glover. Yeah, I have. I coached one opening bout before, and we actually fought them.
That's wild. Now, I've cornered a couple of like opening fights, and I think I fought, or no, that was just on an undercard. Doesn't matter. But
the earliest I've ever fought was fourth.
I once fought on it was a college card. So there was like an afternoon one at like 3, and then like the main event at like 6 or something. And our team was like relatively split, and I remember being so thankful I was on the early one. I was like, I'm done. I think I got a big win. I think I beat an Army kid, and I just like got changed. I'm chilling, and I'm watching my teammates. Oh, it's so much fun. But anyways, what I found is if the organization runs on time, which like, you know, certain local organizations.
Well, you know, it's like, you know, there's variables there, and at that level, like, you know, you're like.
TV.
Going like prelims on YouTube, main card on Fight Pass. Like there's
an urgency,
structured schedule that like, you know, it's like, do you see UFC fights run late, like, or start late? No,
right, exactly.
Because there's a structured schedule that you have to follow, and there's a lot. They have a lot more resources.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You know, to keep them like on like TV time.
Exactly. So what I found is if the fights start when you expect them to, being the first one is like the best thing in the world. You can time your warm up perfectly. Everything's easy. Yeah. If they don't start when they say they're going to, then it's a problem. And I've had to go both ways. Plenty of times, shows are like, oh yeah, we're going to start at 7, and like 7:30 rolls around and you're like, so are we going to like walk soon, or what's the deal? And then one time, I was cornering someone who was first, and warming up, getting ready, and they're like, hey, we're going to be 15 minutes late. And we're like, all right, no problem. We slow everything down accordingly, right? Let's say it's going to start at 7, and we're expecting to walk out at like 7:10 or something. They come in at 6:55, and they're like, all right, you're walking. This dude got 5 minutes of warm-up. Like, it was insane.
Shame.
Neither here nor there, though. LFA ran perfectly, right on time. We had
As you'd expect.
Exactly. Perfectly warmed up. He was sharp. Blew his lungs out, you know, getting some wrestling reps in, get some nice striking reps in, walks out. He seems confident. And like, that's what's I love, or one of the many things I love about coaching like high level wrestlers is they've been involved in so many matches.
Yeah, this dude walked out to a national finals. Do you know what I mean? Like, this fight, like, although I do think there's tons of value for him in this fight.
Oh yeah.
Several different reasons. Number one, the one that we're alluding to right now is just like a time in a big show. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Exactly. See how it operates.
Yeah, seeing how the back operates, the long week of being there, right? Like, you know, next thing you know, he's a pro, he's a level up, and the only change is he's got to be there a day earlier for media.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
so
I remember that.
Experienced that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that adjustment. Going from fighting like basically at home, where like I'm sleeping in my bed, you know, the night before a fight, and then all of a sudden we're fighting in Atlantic City with the CFFC, staying in the Borgata, have to be there on Wednesday for a Saturday fight, do media on Wednesday. Or get there Wednesday night to do media on Thursday, cut weight Thursday, weigh in Friday morning, fight Saturday night. Like, you know, like it's like a whole
experience.
Yeah. And it's cool. It's a fun experience. But the more you get to experience that, the
more familiar it becomes.
The more familiar it becomes, which is obviously going to be of a benefit to a fighter. Which is why, like in my case, when I was fighting in shows like that, and in Bellator, I would bring AJ in my corner, right? Because it was like, I had you and Warren, I was like, that's all I need.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, well, I got this third spot. Like, should I try to sell this corner spot? Like a ticket, like, ooh, premier, like $400, you can be in my corner, right? Or can I give, like, this experience to somebody else who like, I think would benefit from it?
Absolutely, yeah.
So by getting the fight in the LFA as an amateur, that's definitely a benefit. And, now Luke has seen, like, both sides of it. He's fought, in some not so crazy places, and then now he's fought in the LFA.
Yep.
So really good experience, a really good opponent, a 4-0 opponent, all 4 fights by finish.
Yep.
So yeah, it was a good opponent.
Yeah.
So you want to get into the fight?
Yeah. So walk out. He's confident. Everything's great.
Walks out the country roads,
and they played pretty much the whole thing.
They played the whole song, and so it definitely wasn't on like purpose. They were having something going on there. So like you play the walkout song. And it, just however long it takes, and we kind of like get it done, like the whole inspection area thing. So, in the inspection area, you walk down, you dap up your coaches, whatever, boom, gears off, mouthpiece in. If there's a cut man, the cut man greases you up. If there's not a cut man, then one of your corners, greases you up. Then you pop in the cage, and then like a little loop around the cage, and then your song gets cut.
Yeah.
Right? It gets cut. Well, they did his inspection area in the back, right? Because they're trying to like pump these ones through. So when he gets to the cage, it's just like the ref like checking, like boom, boom, boom. He's been greased already, shirts off and everything, ready to rock. So he just goes straight in the cage, and they just kept playing it.
Yeah,
they played like the whole song, and we're like, "Dang, this is crazy."
Like, when are we gonna start this fight?
Yeah.
But anyways, so after all this build up, fight starts. Luke comes out, starts slinging some punches. Commits to a couple good ones, and to be honest, I don't even remember when it happened, but sure enough, blast takedown.
Bro, it was a counter to a head kick.
Oh, that's right.
The first takedown in the first round, if I'm remembering correctly, which I often do, was a counter to a head kick.
Yeah.
He went under the head kick and like caught the
single.
The side single.
Yeah, it was so sick. And then as soon as he got a hold of this kid, like as expected, his wrestling was significantly better.
So I had scouted this kid, a little bit. We usually don't do much scout work for amateur fights. You know what I mean? It's like something like, not that there's anything wrong with it, but like, like get in there and, do it, right?
Okay, I think there's 2 reasons why we don't. One is because what you just said, it's like, what are you really going to learn from this? Like, just get in there and do it. Focus on what you're doing, not what your opponent's doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like are you trying
at
to
this
win?
level?
At this level, I think there's some value in, like, winning with your skill set, not, like, building a game plan tailor-made to your opponent. Yeah. First off, you're an amateur. So, like, what is your skill set even?
And also,
you're developing it.
Clearly. If I do film on an amateur, especially if it's like a 2-fight amateur, like, his next fight is gonna be different. You know what I mean? So like, why am I doing
they grow
this
so
work?
much in there, and it's just like, so. But whatever. But like,
well, hold on. The second reason is you and I have a massive team, dude. If I was doing film work for everybody, I would just do film work all day, every day. That's it.
Right. Yeah.
So can't do that.
So generally, I hold film work for pros. Oh, and I didn't do film work on Devin Coates. What I did was
you looked into him though.
I looked into him, like, you know what I mean? I was like, okay, I saw his MMA record. All right, he's 4-0, 4 finishes, all by rear naked choke. All right, kid likes to take the back, okay? Then I move on and I, like, check his jiu-jitsu out, right? So, like, I just go on, like, jiu-jitsu websites that hold records and stuff. Smooth Comp is primarily the first one I go look at, because that's what, like, Fuji Grappling Industries, the AGF, that's what they kind of, like, use for, like, I don't know if AGF does actually. Most of them use that for their registration, So all your results in any tournaments like that are on there. So boom, I click on there, kind of like get a gauge. I'm like, okay, he won this tournament, did this, that, da da da. He was competing at blue belt in this year, doing well here, blah blah blah. You kind of get a gauge, right? So like, just get an idea, because sometimes like you can't read someone's MMA record, especially amateurs. Amateurs are so hard to like read their record and get like a niche vibe, and just like to have like. And honestly, we did absolutely nothing with it. With that information. Yeah. Like, it's like, okay, I got this little bit of information. and we did nothing with it. Like, I wasn't like, okay, he does this, he seems to like this or that.
Yeah.
It was just like, yeah, dude, he's like, he's good. He's
Just
good.
go fight him.
Fight him. Yeah, we did nothing with it. So much so that like it was either before the warm up or right after the warm up. We were like, is he orthodox or southpaw? And Luke was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Which like brings back like that's a call back to like Brittany's amateur title fight,
Yep.
right? We found out her opponent was southpaw when the fight started, right? You know what I mean? And like that's how much prep work we're doing for these amateur fights, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like now as a pro fight, we do a little more prep work. In the higher level, obviously, the more a game plan matters. But at these amateur levels, man, go win it for yourself. Go win it with your skill set.
And also, then it's like, okay, like Brittany's fight, for example, I start hitting her with some codes of like various systems that we run, and it, is a good way to test, like under pressure, can you make these adjustments?
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, there's a ton of
where a great place to test those are amateur. Fights.
A place where your record doesn't matter?
Yeah, amateur fights. A place where it's meant for you to get experience.
Yeah.
Remind me, I want to talk about the rules meeting.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
After.
Okay, yeah.
So, but let's go. So Luke gets the takedown. Everything's good. The kid's kind of like running like a sit-up guard to where like Luke's like head's like underneath one armpit. He's like in a body lock position. Luke's in a body lock position on top. And like the guard's open. So like think of like a knee shield or whatever. And, he's working like if the guy turns to his left, Luke's like looking up, like trying to chase the back. If the guy's cutting in, he's keeping himself safe from the guillotine. But they were kind of like stuck in like that like looping hold area. So he finished off the round with some body shots, from the ground and pound, trying to work the head under head to get to a position to like really land some stuff there. So like, yeah, we go in the second, that's a 1-0. That's a win.
Yeah.
That round.
Easy 10-9.
Yeah, easy 10-9. Go in the second round. More striking exchanges. Is this when he teeps him into the cage? Is this?
Dude, I don't really remember, to be honest. Like, for me, the fight was just this. It was just him doing pretty well positionally standing up.
Yes.
Him throwing decent strikes and making decent decisions.
Yes.
And then not doing one or two things that you and I were calling for that we're going to work on, and then taking them down and just controlling them like the whole time easily,
Yeah, for sure. But it was the third when he had the big takedown. So I'm misremembering, like he like teeped him into the cage and like followed it into a double. I believe that was in the third. But whatever, wash, rinse, repeat. Second and third round, fairly similar. Like dominant control. Did he get hit once? He might not even have got hit.
Yeah.
He might not. He might have went untouched.
Yeah.
This fight, not for lack of trying or lack of exchanges.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like they were throwing back and forth, but like Luke just like kept himself positionally. Distance was really good. He was only in when it was time for offense, and he was out when it was time for defense. The head kicks were allowed, so some head kicks were chucked. None landed, obviously, as we know. And a dominant decision win, 30-27 across the board.
And I think what's really cool about this fight is, again, we got some time, we got some data, you know what I mean? And we have very specific things we're going to work on. We talked about this after Lucas's fight. It's like,
it's like a good thing. It's like, okay, like normally like you get the most data on what you're going to work on after like a loss. You're like, because it really exposes something.
Exactly.
Right? But best case scenario is you win and still get data. So that way you can make those leaps of improvement at, the biggest rate you can, while still, having the spoils of victory.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, I got some good plans for Luke going forward. You know what I mean? I really want like a nose to the grindstone on jiu-jitsu. I want jiu-jitsu to feel like as comfortable as wrestling is to him.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that likely will never ever happen.
Yeah.
But like it's the idea of
Exactly.
it, right? Like I want him to feel like in these jiu-jitsu positions, because I feel like in these jiu-jitsu positions when he's not questioning himself,
right?
Like he gets to a point where he like really understands like the nuts and bolts of it, and he's not questioning himself. That grappling sword is going to be so sharp.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like his takedowns are already, and his takedowns for MMA too.
Yeah.
Like already, like his style of takedown is like great. But it's like, okay, so like right now, his style of takedown, the way that I view it, really pairs well with striking, right? So it can lead him to having that sweet spot of being able to choose, like, hey, this is the kind of MMA wrestler I am. Mm-hmm. I'm the kind of MMA wrestler who gets to choose where the fight happens.
Exactly.
Right? Like, there's different types of MMA wrestlers. There's an MMA wrestler who is like, this fight's going to the ground.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care who you are.
Right.
We're going to the ground.
Yeah. I think
if you're a better striker than me, you could be a better striker than me. You could be a worse striker than me. Yep. Doesn't matter.
Getting taken down.
We're going to the ground, right? Whereas in Luke's situation, his is more of like a situation in which, like, you know, now you're choosing, right? You're like, all right, like the easiest route is the ground, and then we're going down. Or, you know, if I just need to keep you honest in striking, like, I can use my takedowns as a threat to keep you honest with that in striking.
Tell me if you like these examples, okay? On one end of the spectrum, we got Khabib, right?
Yeah.
You're getting taken down no matter what.
Yes.
On the other end of the spectrum, we have like Chuck Liddell, or more modern example would be like Gaethje, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, he can wrestle, but he's only going to use it to stay standing, right?
Dude, yeah, but he's not even going to use it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't want to use Gaethje.
Okay, maybe not. Let's say Chuck Liddell, right?
I would say like GSP.
No, he was going to be my sweet spot.
Oh, the sweet spot. Okay. Oh, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh,
it's
I
like,
see what you're saying.
you're always going to get takedowns versus you're only going to stand, and then you have GSP.
Oh, yeah.
In the middle.
Okay, you're nailing it with Gaethje then. I was misunderstanding the range that you're looking for. Yeah, he's that sweet spot, and that's where you want to be. But here goes the evolution in which I want to see him go down is right now. He has that choice, right? The fight is going to take place wherever Luke wants the fight to take place. All right. So now we need to give him a strength place to choose to take the fight to.
Yep.
Right? It's like, okay, so right now, like, you know what I mean? Like, he's getting the takedowns, but I feel like when he was on top in these takedowns, right, he wasn't as comfortable as he should be.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, definitely doing the right things, definitely listening well, definitely winning.
Yes.
Definitely winning.
Yes.
But there's no way he felt free down there, right?
Yes.
Whereas, like, to use myself as an example, there were several moments in which when I got the takedown, it was like this weight lifted off me. It was like, okay, now the fight's in its easiest place.
Right.
Right? And, like, that's what I want for him. I want when he gets takedown to be like, oh, sick. Like we're here. And, like, that freedom there, the same way he feels about the takedown, I want him to feel about his grappling. Right? I also want him to feel about his striking. I just think that right now the low-hanging fruit's the grappling. The thing that can make the biggest difference, the fastest, is going to be to go nose to the grindstone, jiu-jitsu. He needs to focus on jiu-jitsu for jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
Not jiu-jitsu for MMA. Jiu-jitsu for jiu-jitsu, and then watch that translate into MMA. If he goes, buckles down, spends September, October, the next 4 months, runs himself into 2025, just like with in his mind, he's like, dude, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy now.
Yep.
Like, that's what I do. Like, I'm not even an MMA fighter. I'm a jiu-jitsu guy. Then he'll go into 2025 MMA like a different animal.
Like
a different
exponentially.
Yeah. It's not additive.
Right.
Like, this will multiply. This will multiply. And then that opens up like this like void to let the striking flourish. Right.
And the other thing about that too, I mean, like, so you and I have discussed this, obviously. Like, you know, we did a lot of driving this weekend. We have his next moves planned out. Have you talked to him? Is he fine about this right now?
Yeah, unless he it depends on if he listens to this first or I get a hold of him first. Honestly, he's probably going to listen to this first. You know, I'm assuming.
Luke, you're doing jiu-jitsu for the next couple months.
I'm assuming he's going to. I mean, dude, who knows? He might be right back in the gym this week. But
either way,
it takes a couple days off.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
So
I'm letting him live right now. So you guys know more about Luke. Dude, you know what's funny? Hey, let's do a call back to last episode, because last episode we talked about style fights jiu-jitsu, right? And I laid out Alex Hudik's next plans. And we made the same joke that we just made. Is he going to find it out from the pod, or are you going to tell him, right? And I was like, we'll see, like, you know, when this drops, right? We'll see. Like, did I talk to him yet or not? I had not. I had not. He texted me and he's like, good to know my fall schedule, and like the salute emoji. He's like, good to know my fall schedule. Yeah, and I was like, right on, dude. Yeah, so that's how we get our views. We get most of our views because our fighters need to watch the episode to figure out what they're doing. It's like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing next month? Hold on, I gotta watch this clip.
So, Luke, to further explain why you're going to be doing a lot of jiu-jitsu coming up, from the striking side of things, is in like MMA, right? You have to learn all the striking, you have to learn all this jiu-jitsu. There is more to learn in jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah, it's
like,
just a deep.
There are more techniques. there are more, like there's just more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that you can make the argument that it's perhaps, and I'm not saying that this is a good argument, but you could make the argument that it's perhaps more difficult to refine technique in striking because like everyone has a jab. So to develop like an elite jab, like
I could agree with that.
I could be swayed either direction, depending on how you want to argue it.
Maybe I just don't care.
Yeah, it's kind of where I am right now. But in terms of understanding striking, Luke's at like, you know, whatever we want to call it, you know, like 50% or something. Whereas understanding jiu-jitsu, he's at like 5%, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, let's get your understanding up over here.
Here goes the thing with it. His wrestling's so good that he can beat people who are good at jiu-jitsu.
Exactly.
In jiu-jitsu matches. That doesn't mean you're good at jiu-jitsu.
It's like if you were an elite level boxer and you went and started doing Muay Thai and you're just starching dudes because you're like real good. And you're like, I can eat a leg kick here and there. I'm good. You know, I'll just fight my way out of the clinch. Everything's good. And you're beating all these guys who are, you know, better than you at Muay Thai, but you're just better, you know? And so that's what we want to do is catch his knowledge up. And obviously that's the place where there's just more knowledge to be had.
Right.
And also like, I think he has a decent understanding of like the outline of striking. He understands the game a little bit, you know?
Dude, this kid's going to be the real deal. I'm not worried about it. You know, I'm not worried about it. Yeah. So I mean, like that puts a bow on his fight and like what's going on. So just like to like, kind of like shut down like the rest of the evening and stuff. I do want to talk about the rules meeting, right, which was like wild a little bit. And the last thing I want to talk about is, so I met Luke's parents.
Yeah,
right? We
yeah.
met Luke's parents, and dude, I met his dad, and it just like, it did not go well for me, bro. So like, I'm like, oh hey, and like we're going over and we're gonna meet his parents, right? And like, man, it hit me just like it did not work out great. So I meet his parents and I'm like, oh my God, we're like the same age. Like, you know what I mean? It was the first time it happened. Right. It was the first time, and where like, you know, like, so I've been coaching in wrestling too. I've been coaching since since my early 20s.
Right.
So I've always been like closer in age to the athlete than I have their parents.
Right.
In most situations, the people I coach, their parents are like the age of my parents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, you know, like I like met Luke's parents and I was like talking to his dad, and like the whole time I'm talking to his dad, I was like, dude, are we the same age?
You're doing like the mental math. Like
I was like, okay, Luke's 24. Like, how old could you be? Right? I'm like, you probably got to be like, I mean, what, like, looks super young too. I'm like, what are you, like 47? I'm like, oh my God, I'm closer in age to you. Like, and like, you know what I mean? Like, I just felt like if we were all hanging out, like I probably should have been hanging out with his dad.
Right, yeah, exactly.
You know? And I was like, well, what has happened to me? Yeah, so like that made me feel like, you know, like I'm in a different place in my life.
And I mean, you are.
Bro, I did not like it. I did not like it. Oh my God.
That's hilarious.
I was like, no. Oh man.
Dude, you know what's crazy?
I was going into a crisis.
Do you have any fighters you train who are older than you?
No.
I'm going to lose that soon.
What do you mean?
There's still fighters who are older than me.
Oh, yeah. No one's older than me. I'm the oldest, for sure.
Actually.
I mean, who's
now that I think about it,
I don't think anybody's younger or older than you.
Maybe Donahue. I might be a little older than him, actually. Either way, man, we're both old.
Yeah.
Well, I don't like this anymore.
Long time you could always rely on me.
Yeah. Like, well, not just you. I was a 24-year-old coach, dude. Like, everyone was older than me.
And Jonas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, we were all older than
This is a fun aside, right?
You were the youngest.
The first time I met Jonas, or maybe it wasn't the first time, but like the first time I like really interacted with him, right? I didn't have a car at the time. I was gonna get a ride home from Cody, and then Cody's like, "Oh, I got caught up with X, Y, and Z. Like, can't take you home." I'm like, whatever. I was like, hop on a bus or something, and Jonas is like, "No worries, bro. I got you." And I was like, "Oh, that's real nice of you. Cool." We hop in the car. He's driving me home. And I'm just like start chatting with him, and I was like, "Hey man, so like, did you like just get out of school or something?" Because I'm like, he's like 18.
Okay. I thought this story was going to go in a different direction.
No. So I was like,
yeah, dude, I go on rides with Jonas too.
So I was like, dude, like, did you like just get out of school or something? And he looks at me, he's like, bro, I'm almost 30. I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah, dude.
You look so young.
I got the same story with Jonas. When Jonas started fighting, I'm not going to go too in depth with it because it's a long story. And you know, actually, it'd be good for another pod. Like, we do some, like, Stout history.
That is not a bad idea.
Yeah. But, just to get the gist of it, right? Like, so I'm training with Jonas, right? You know what I mean? And I'm kind of, like, trying to big dog everyone at this point in time. So, like, you know, I'm not, like, the coolest training partner. Kind of, like, trying to, like... Well, it's kind of like, you know, he was newer to, like, the team type deal. And I was, like, you know, I was also super young. I was, like, 23.
Also, the training methods were still not quite
training
as evolved.
Methods. Yeah, you know, so, like, I was just, like, kind of, like, beating people up.
Yes.
And we get to talking afterwards. He's like, oh, you're from here? Yeah. He starts listing people, right? Mm-hmm. That, he's like, oh, you know this guy? You know Zariski, you know Steve Daniels, you know Jim Bowden. And I'm like, yeah, I know all them dudes. And I was like, yeah, I wrestled with them like my whole life. And he goes, oh yeah, I went to school with them. I know them, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you went to school with them? I was like, how you know all of them? They're all older than me. And he goes, oh, they're all younger than me. I was like, excuse me? I was like, what? Yeah, dude. So me and Jonas, again, something for another pod, but we ran basically in like overlapping circles. Right, growing up. Right? You know what I mean? So like my older friends were his younger friends.
Yeah.
And then at the time, and obviously when you meet Jonas, you are sure that you are much older than him.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this guy's in his like mid-20s, and he's like, dude, I'm like 40.
Yeah. Well, at this time, I would have thought he was like 19.
Yeah, right.
You know? And he was like, yeah, dude. Well, Jonas is he's only 2 years older than me. So like we are really close in age. Right. But like, you know, it's like, okay, like I was a sophomore, so all my friends who were juniors were all his friends while he was a senior type deal. But yeah, okay. All right, well, that's good. So let's hit this rules meeting and referee Todd Anderson. Okay, a lot of you are, if you think back to it, you've seen him referee, you know, UFC events. I'm sure like Bellator and PFLs as well.
He's been around.
And I've had him before. I don't think I've had him for one of my fights, like personally. In fact, I would have remembered. Like I remember every official I've had actually. Do you think that's a weird thing that I know every ref for every one of my fights?
Yes.
Yeah, dude, I'm weird.
Yeah, I know a very small amount of the refs who have refed like any of our guys' fights.
Yeah. And I'm always like honored or whatever that they remember me. They're like, oh my, and I'm like, whoa. I'm like, you ref like 4,000
right.
and you refed me twice. And I'm like, you remember me? Oh, so cool. Yeah. But so yeah, he did the rules meeting and like, dude, it was just like so like good. Like, how would you, like, explain it? Like,
just top quality.
It was very easy to understand.
It was everything you needed and nothing you don't, right?
Yes.
So sometimes there's rules meetings that go on for, like, 25 minutes, and you're like, that was 10 minutes too long. You know what I mean? And sometimes there's rules meetings where, like, it's not really an issue for, like, you and I, but, like, I was like, oh, if this was my first time here, I might have some questions, you know? But this was perfect sweet spot. He treated everyone like they trained before, you know, because this is, like, a professional thing.
And I mean, I guess also in a card like this, you can kind of like do that because like it's an all pro card. And the exception for this time, there were 2 amateur fights, which the assumption of these amateur fights is like, you guys are fighting amateur here. You must be like freaking good.
Right. And he addressed like what they needed to know. You know what I mean? He addressed the rule changes and what is in effect and what is not in effect.
Like what's coming up.
The other thing about him is his voice is naturally real loud. You know what I mean? So like, for example, you would be a great ref. Because your voice carries, you know?
I'd be a terrible ref because I'd hate for people to get mad at me.
Okay, fair enough. But voice-wise, whereas I would not. I'm naturally a very quiet person. You know what I mean? Which actually, can I give one more side story?
Yeah, sure. Go.
All right. So when I was doing traditional martial arts when I was like way younger, right? I've only lost 3 traditional martial arts like contests, right? And I've done like a million of them, right?
Did someone break more boards than you?
No. I'm sure I've lost like forms and whatever. I'm talking about sparring, right?
Okay, go.
So one of them was because I was beating this dude up.
You hit him too hard, right?
And
they were like, "You're done."
So they would like basically like tape off like a gym floor into like a ring, and then they put 4 chairs in each corner, and there'd be all these dudes who don't actually know how to fight, wearing gis and black belts and sitting in the corners, and I was there to fight. They're like, oh, I'm doing martial arts. And I was like, no, I'm here to like win. So I've got this kid, you can't punch to the head. I'm just blasting 1-2s into this dude's chest. And he's bent over one of the chairs and the guy's like holding him up. And I'm like, I'm going to go till the ref tells me stop. You know what I mean? Because it's a point thing. So I'm listening for the point. So I'm just boom, 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 crushing this dude in the chest. I'm like, I can't believe this isn't scoring, right? I'm like maybe 14, right? This grown man ref just comes up behind me, grabs me by the neck, picks me up, and slams the shit out of me in the middle of this ring. And I was like, dude. And he was like, when I say stop, you gotta stop. And I was like, I didn't hear you. And he's like, I know you did, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, dude, whatever. So I just like keep beating this dude up. And afterwards, he was like, no, blah, blah, blah. And like, I forget why he said I lost, but like, he was like, you lose. And at the end, like, he's lining everyone up. And he's like talking like, yeah, this is about like respect and honor and blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. He's like, some of you seem to think it's a street fight. And I remember in that moment thinking to myself, I was like, if these don't work in a street fight, then shouldn't street fighting be what we train? Like, what are you talking about? This makes no sense. And like, that's when I like really started like being like, oh, traditional martial arts like have their place, but maybe not for me.
Yeah.
But anyways, that ref, I don't know why that popped in my head, but that ref just slammed the shit out of a child.
Dude, I'm irritated. I want to find him now.
I know. Anyways, I'm sorry to go on that tangent, but what's his name again?
Todd Anderson?
Todd Anderson, his voice carries really, really well, like not shouting. So like it was super clear, and like when his voice is taking up the space, no one else is talking, which makes it go even faster and more efficiently, right? So this whole meeting was just like boom, 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 not a hitch, and again, just like concise and clear. I was very impressed with it.
Yeah, I was too, and like I feel like his terminology was like really like good. Like he like he like made you understand why certain things were certain things, like the sympathetic response thing. I was like, okay, like, and I was like, I'm glad that you get that, because like, you know what I mean, like
some refs are like, why are you grabbing the cage?
Why are you grabbing the cage? And it's like, because
it's impossible not to. Yeah,
because you would too. Like, you can't not.
And what he explained about the fist versus a hand on the ground.
Yeah, like,
and I was like, okay, that makes total sense, and why like it should be legal when you lift that dude up a little bit. If it's not weight bearing, then.
Yeah. So what he's saying is like, like if you like are doing like the game, like of putting your hand down, if you go palm to the mat, whenever you like try to turn to like make whatever defensive or offensive movement, your palm's going to lift off the mat to the fingers. And when it's fingers, you are open game, right? But if you go fist to the mat, when you make those motions, the fist is going to stay to the mat. Therefore, you're still a grounded fighter.
Which luckily that rule's getting pushed
adjusted,
aside. Yeah.
How's it? So
it's gonna be knee down.
Oh, so the hand down? Oh, dude,
so much better.
Dude, wow, infinitely better. Yeah. I was not understanding because Pat came over and was talking to us about it, and like I was kind of like
asleep,
napping, right? So I like sat up to like listen, but I was too far behind, and I was like, you know what? I'll just figure it out later.
Yeah, they decided that when they decided to get rid of 12-6.
Oh my god, dude, great! Like, how about good rule changes, dude?
Great rule
Hell
changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Playing the game with the hand is so nonsense, and like having a knee down is so
embarrassed.
So
I would never play the game.
Dude, not to mention, like there's times where it's been wrong. So now I'm blanking on who was fighting. It was a UFC event.
Was it Eddie and Dustin?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It was in the past. I want to say like within the last 6
months.
Dude,
and the other thing too that's going to take away is there's some like close calls.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like where you're like I'll see it happen. I'm like, what are they gonna do? Like are they gonna like look at that? Like, you know?
This is exactly what I'm talking about. The dude was in like a front headlock position, and the guy who's in the front headlock puts his hand down. Right. The guy on top is real smart and lifts him up, knees, lets him like go back down, lift up knee. And when you watch it in slow motion, it is so clean. It's like hand off the mat gets blasted, boom, hand off the mat gets blasted, and like. I saw it in real time and was like, I'm pretty sure that was all legal. And then like the ref stops and is like, oh, what's going on? And then they show the replay and I was like, oh no, that's 100% legal. And I believe the ref penalized them too. Now I wish I remember what fight this was. But like now we're just getting rid of that nonsense, you know?
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. Good rule changes.
Fantastic.
All right, so let's make a move. So celebrate a little bit of Luke's victory.
Got to enjoy a fight card as fans.
Oh yeah, dude, that was so cool. Yeah, we got to sit in the crowd and like, cause like Luke fought first.
Yeah.
So what? We ran back to the room. Luke showered up. Blah blah blah. We got back down there. We only missed the second fight.
Yeah.
We got back down there during the third fight, so we got to watch the rest of the card. Like sat in seats and like watched it. It was it was a joy.
Yeah.
I haven't done that in
so much fun. Yeah,
forever.
We don't get to do that very often.
Yeah, and it's hard to like be like, hey, like I don't have anybody on this card. I'm gonna go like explain to like my
yeah,
because like this is a job for me. It's a tremendous job. I love it. It's such an enjoyable job. Very thankful. I have a lot of gratitude to have this job. But we're cornering multiple weekends a month.
Yep.
So it's hard to be like, hey, I'm off this weekend. I'm gonna go watch some fights.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go pay and sit in the crowd. But like like this time I was like, wow, dude, he's the first fight of the night.
Yeah.
Get that done, and then we just hang out, and it was really cool.
Yeah.
Got some steak and eggs.
We sure did at like 1 in the morning.
It was delicious.
Dude, it was fantastic.
It was the best value on that menu too.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good price too. All right, so so the next day we're scooting down to Erie, which thankfully for us, so like from Pittsburgh to Salamanca, you go through Erie to get there. So like it's like 3 hours there, right? So just backtrack an hour. On the way home, we're in Erie, right? So we go check out the new Deadpool movie.
Yep,
right?
saw Deadpool.
Killing some time with some Deadpool. Just in time for us to hit a B-dubs for the main card.
Absolutely.
Of the
UFC.
The Sandhagen Nurmagomedov fight. Yeah, we saw the whole main card.
Yep.
That was cool. And because the fights were a split card. The Erie fights, the Bizzarro promotions, was a boxing card, and they've done this in the past several times. We've been involved in it. They did the boxing card at 5 and then the MMA card at 8, right? So we had to be there. Our report time was 6 p.m., right? And we were on time, okay? Or at least close to it, all right? We weren't doing no type of shady business, okay? There was no parking, all right? I can guarantee it, okay? Yeah, so whatever. So, yeah, it was like quick. The fights went fast.
Dude, so the old main event fell through, so now Josh's main event.
Yeah.
And you and I had already been away from home for like the whole weekend. We're like trying to like, crank through it a little bit. We're like, oh, we want to like corner this fight and get back home. And we're like, oh man, he's main event. This is going to take forever. I was like,
especially on an 8 p.m. start. So to throw back to the last time that they did this, it was Thanksgiving Eve, which we had Luke Martin on the card. Luke made his amateur debut.
Yep.
That day, and Mason was the main event.
Yep.
Right, and Mason fought at like 1 a.m.
Yes.
Because the boxing card ran a little long, so then the MMA card started late, and the MMA card was running long.
Was that in Erie?
That was the exact same room.
Really?
That was the exact same room, dude.
Oh, that's right. It was the other locker room. Okay.
We were in the other locker because
Mason
Mason got Mason.
Yeah.
So they didn't dish out any of those locker rooms because there were other events happening in there, right? But for that one, they still had like remember we couldn't find everybody.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, I remember now. Yeah. So normally that puts us like super late.
Yeah.
And this time, dude
people
everyone's
were
getting finished.
Fights. I don't know if a fight. Did any fights? Maybe only like the fight. There ended up being 9 fights and maybe 1 or 2 decisions.
Right.
Maybe
flying. Dude.
Yeah,
it was tremendous. So we're making great time. Josh is getting warm, like right
also,
at the right time.
Also, perfectly timed that like they're gonna do an intermission because and I get it. Like they need to like
make their beer sales and
you need to get which is part of the game. The intermission perfectly timed to where like the way we run our warm ups. It's like, okay, when intermission's done, we can start warming up because it puts it on the fight in which we begin our warm-ups.
It was so perfect. Josh is just like right in the pocket, dialed in, super warm, without like any extra time to cool down or like, have to think about stuff. And Josh is confident.
Dude,
super confident.
He's in, so the locker rooms aren't really super split. They're just like curtains.
Well, so it's like a giant convention center room, and then there's like cubicles made out of curtains down each side. So you can have some privacy, right?
You can have some privacy, but you can't warm up in your room. You have to like step out.
You could if you wanted to be like real tight and you like didn't want people to see you or whatever.
Yeah, it'd be tough.
But like, most people kind of like go take a corner or something. Dude, Josh goes right in the middle, and he's just getting warm.
Getting loose. He's yelling, "I'm gonna smash your boy," which like, dude, definitely like.
He was right.
Played a factor. You could kind of catch the vibe of the fight. There was a little bit of intimidation there.
Yep.
But dude, made me super uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I was like,
Mike and I are not the type to like go and like.
The other kids' coaches, I like those guys. Like they're buddies of mine.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm like, God damn it,
But
Josh.
also, like, you and I are not the kind of guys who are like, we're not gonna go like out in the middle of like Times Square and like film a prank video of us like doing something stupid, so everyone's looking at us for like.
Oh no, I get too embarrassed.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like and like I am way
I
more
have
introverted
trouble watching
than you.
movies that make me like feel weird.
Yeah, dude. And again, I'm more introverted than you, so
Yeah.
like I'm like I'm just gonna stay on the side here. But like I'm glad Josh has that. Like that's what makes him a good fighter. You know what I mean? Is like having that like confidence and just like taking over a room. I remember Britt talking about that too, and how like she saw the Philly guys doing it, and she took that attitude, and like I think it's great for fighters. You know what I mean? So Josh is just like primed perfectly, right? And walks out, still has that same intensity, gets in the cage, and I mean, let's be honest here. I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, man, I had a feeling it was going to go exactly how it went.
Yeah.
I thought it might go a little longer, like there might be more exchanges, but Josh set the record.
Dude.
So he had a couple records, right? He has now Stout PGH's fastest knockout, fastest finish, period, and fastest title fight. Which, I mean, like if you have the fastest finish, it auto
exactly
covers that. But the fact that it's in a title fight too, gets that all knotted up. So yeah, just came out and just, dude, he called it perfectly too. Yeah. He was telling people all week, he's like, yeah, this dude's gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do that.
Yep.
And he was like, and that's gonna be it.
Yep.
And that's exactly how it went.
And pretty much this dude came out and just immediately tried to get a hold of Josh. Josh is defending takedowns perfectly, sprawling,
dude,
shoving
he hit
off.
one, like the dude, so like he like the first one was kind of like they like clashed.
Yeah, like a bear hug type of deal.
Yeah, like clash. He cracked him.
Right?
Just like he said it was going to happen. Cleared and cracked him. Then the dude like went full out for like a panic double. Dude, he sprawled boy's head boom
into the mat.
Straight into the mat. Boom, circles around, comes up.
Hold on. You just showed it, but I don't think you explained how important this is. He attacks during those transitions.
Attack during every transition.
It's not like he's just like,
listen,
you have to think about
go watch the video. It's a 15-second fight. It's all over social media. Go watch the video. And that's what I'm talking about, right? It's very difficult to maintain like that chest to back connection or that chest to chest connection and still throw with power, right?
Dude, any sort of control position, standing up, clinching, you know, even in boxing, you have like a little bit of like a, what do you call it? Like a smother position, you know what I mean? Like it's real hard to punch off that.
Right, because like he's able to maintain like a thudding power with little thoracic rotation. Right? Yeah. Like, whereas, like, I need, like, a big turn, right? I think back to my pro debut, I had my opponent completely flattened out in back control, like, fully flattened out, glued to the mat. I'm arched up, and I'm just throwing what I think are Thor's hammers at each side. Just left, right, left, just crushing him. I'm talking to Chip. I'm like, you got to get him out of here. You got to save him. Da-da-da. And then I watched the video back, and I was barely pulling my pants back, right? Because it took so much for me in my head to have enough control to maintain that I wasn't going to lose the position, right? That I'm in here, in my head, I'm cracking. But I look, and like I'm pulling my arm back like a foot at a time instead of getting like a good turn in my core reach back to where I can bring some seriously damaging blows.
Right.
And that's something like, that we work on with the fighters now, based off of that experience, is like getting in a position, controlling the position where you still have some rotation to throw some damaging blows to make that position, even more valuable. And he's able to do that really well.
Yeah. I mean,
primarily because he doesn't need much thoracic rotation for the power.
Dude, listen, there's just some people who just have it, and Josh has it in insane amounts.
Yes.
Like he hits so hard. I mean, like you can see the video and you can like whatever, but like it's hard to explain to people how hard he hits.
Yes.
Especially in 4-ounce gloves. Like, dude, when he goes pro, man, those 70s better watch out.
Yep, which that's next for him. 6-3 career. Finished off with a title bout, 9 amateur fights, tons of experience. It's time to go pro.
Yeah.
Time to go pro. He'll be going pro down at 170. His real weight class. You know, these past 2 fights were at 185. Mainly fought up at 185 because, you know, it's just easier to get a fight, and it was day of weigh-in. So he's able to weigh 185 and then compete that same day. So he can get the 70 for sure.
And again, dude, there's a 15-pound gap there. If you have 85er power, you take that same power down to 70s, like...
Oh, yeah.
Whew.
Certainly. All right. So, yeah, great performance, and that puts a bow on that. So let's just do a little brief recap on where the whole team is at the moment, because it really involves the 2 fighters who fought this past weekend. So currently on the year, the team stands at 19-4 overall, right? Which that is really good. I mean, you think we just finished 7 months of competition. I mean, yes, August 2nd, August 3rd. So we're 2 days into month 8, you know? But basically 7 months and just a little bit of change there. 23 fights, 19 victories. And what I am most impressed with our fighters on with this is the level of competition in which we're at, still getting these like good records.
Yeah.
So we've had 5 fighters fight pro this year, right? So we've had, and I'm trying to think, I think we've had 7 pro fights then. So we've had 7 pro fights. So 7 of the 23 fights were pro, which means we're fighting a certain level of competition there. And other than that, not many of the fights were debut fights.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like a lot of these fighters now are like in that part of their amateur career where you really start to get tested. You know, because sometimes a record can look inflated a little bit. Like our record has in the past definitely looked really good, but like I knew.
Right.
You know, I was like, hey man, a lot of people were making their debut. We're in these early stages where, you know, it's kind of, it's easier, right? You know what I mean? When you're 0-0 fighting another 0-0, unless that 0-0 is the next
right,
dude,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's like as easy as it's getting, and then you start like building your record. Now you're starting to fight tougher fights, and then it's the wins and losses become a little more even.
Right. And also, like, we'll look for that, you know, if we're like, hey, this guy, you know, he doesn't have good wrestling, let's have him go fight a good wrestler, and then he's either going to prove to us that he does or see that he needs to work on it.
Yeah.
You know? And...
yeah. So like, you know, we're in that kind of era that of the team right now. And did I mention that 13 different fighters have notched a win in the year 2024?
That's sick.
Yeah, 13 different fighters have notched the win, and that accounts for the 19 wins. So that means we have a few fighters with multiple wins, right? We've got Lucas with 2 wins,
right.
Lucas Siebert with 2 wins on the year, both pro. We've got Hound Dog with 2 wins on the year, 1 AMI, 1 pro. Who else? We got Will Moriarty with 2 wins on the year. Yeah, two good finishes too. And then we've got Josh Visoki, 2 wins on the year, 1 a title fight win, both finishes, and then, you know, to cap us off, Luke Martin with 3 wins already on the year, and not to mention his fight prior to that was just the tail end of November. It was Thanksgiving Eve. So yeah, you know, he's knocked out 4 fights in 8 months.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, he's doing really good, and he missed all wrestling. He was coaching wrestling.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So he comes back after wrestling season. Boom, wrestling season ends. He's in the cage March 9th, April 20th, August 2nd. You know,
that's impressive.
Very impressive. Very impressive. So yeah, the other cool thing, like, you know, I'm a stats guy. Like that's why we keep the stats. You know, they entertain me.
Yeah.
You know, they give me something to like strive for. We've got a win at every weight class already, except for 125 and heavyweight.
Oh, that's sick.
And we do have a 125er announced for September 21st in 247. Zach Drzmecki, he can give us that win at 125.
Yep.
That'd be nice to get that. And then, like, you know, I don't see us getting a heavyweight win though.
Unless we get someone who's just like, I'll just go fight a heavyweight.
Right. Yeah. We don't currently have a heavyweight. But yeah, you know, so really cool. Shows like, you know, a roundedness to the team, and that I'm really impressed with that 13 different fighters added to the win total number. And like, there's still some people who are signed to fight this year who like could add to it. Like if they go get their wins, we could get 1 on the 17th, right? We could get 1, 2, 3 on the 21st. So at right least, there, dude, we're looking at another 4. We could be that's 17. That's 17 right there we could be striving for, you know? And then that still gives us 3 months left. Still 3 months left in the year. So it's good to have these goals. It's good to strive for that stuff. I like keeping the record so, you know, you can keep trying to beat yourself, but also like understanding what the records are, right? Like if we were like a predominantly pro team, right? I went like 19-4, I'd be through the roof.
Oh yeah.
Not that I'm not like pumped about it right now, but like I do understand that like
a pro 19-4 is a different thing than
it's a completely
our current
different
team's 19-4.
Yeah, it's a different thing. And then like the higher our amateurs climb too, like that also adds to it, as well. So yeah. Well, I think that about wraps up the weekend. A little bit of fight team recap. So yeah, we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for listening.